He can move the mountains. My God is Testing 1, 2, 3. Is that not any better?
Yeah, that's better. The wireless mic standing up the top left might be there.
Top left.
Yeah, this is wireless.
Wireless mic. That's down. Testing 1, 2, 3.
That's good.
That's good. Y'all want me to turn it off, don't you? 7 bells. Time to begin. Whoops. Y'all come on in. Let's catch up on some prayer requests that we might have. Let me give you the ones that I can think of. Brenda Griffith is in Princeton. I can't ever think of that hospital. She's in Princeton and will have an arteriogram possibly on Friday. She's been having some fainting spells, and they think one of her heart cylinders is not working completely. So they're going to go in and check it out and see exactly what's going on. Bob Snyder is at St. Vincent along with Annette Sanderson. If you want to go see Annette, you have to know Sarah. I think Bob gets in with Bob, but they're both there, and keep them in mind. Any that you know of? Yes.
We got a call this afternoon to please pray for Pam's cousin Johnny Grimstead. He suffered a stroke. Fortunately, it doesn't seem to be very severe, but his wife called and asked us to please pray for him.
Okay. Don?
Kimberly Byers, grandmother, passed away. Funeral in Columbia.
Convoluted family situation, but she is my great niece's mother. She had an early delivery Monday. The baby was 9 weeks early. Her placenta let go, and they had to take the baby. So he weighs 3 pounds and 6 ounces. He was due June 29th.
Okay.
And, he's doing okay, but the doctor said had she not called 911, she's by herself when it happened. Had she not called 911, she wouldn't have made it, and the baby wouldn't have either. So she's doing well, and the baby is in the incubator.
Yeah. Hope that goes well.
My niece helped get her, Deanna Wilson, who's got breast cancer, but a friend of ours over Georgia is a gospel preacher, taught at the Georgia School of Preacher, Bobby Gayton, fell and broke his leg and kind of crushed one of his arms. He's a great gospel preacher. He's done some great things. He's going to have surgery tomorrow. And that's Bobby Gayton.
Yes.
Rebecca Hill's aunt, her name is Janice, and she was, last week they said, that's it, she's not going to make it. They had her on a vent, and she said that you started all praying, and so now she's still making it, and she's off the vent, and she's setting up. So please pray for that family and everything that will continue. Her name was Janice.
Okay. Yes.
A friend of ours, Linda Newbill, she's Newbill Clemens. She used to go to Homewood. Some people might know her from there. She went there a long time. She had a cracked femur, so she's having a rod put in there tomorrow. And she's been limping on it for the last 2 months, and they're extremely grateful that it didn't break. It would have been terrible if it broke, but it didn't. And so the good news, she's having surgery tomorrow in Auburn.
Well, good. Hope that goes well.
Dwayne has been, mentioned in this class several times to pray for the Medley's daughter, Cheryl.
Yeah.
It'd be good to give everybody an update. We got an update today from David on her and the fact that all of the cysts that they were concerned with, the pathology came back, and none of it is cancerous. So they got an excellent report.
They did. Yes.
Adam's dad is in the hospital.
Yes. Adam's dad in the hospital, and and does not look well right now.
He babysat today.
Easy babysitting today. Okay. Come right on in. Oh, is it his fault? Is that what it is? Do you wish to speak up for yourself? No.
And Adam was first born.
Yes.
My cousin Lori Green was playing baseball with some of her coworkers, and she slid into first, and she broke her wrist really, really bad, and she has to have surgery now.
Okay.
She has divorced baseball altogether.
No sign first base.
Okay. Let's bow together. Father, we are so grateful that you hear everything that we ask of you. And Father, we know that you know far more than the ones we have mentioned, individuals that we can all think about and need to be praying for. And we, Father, ask you especially to be with those that we have mentioned tonight, but with all the others that are going through so many different things. We're thankful for this congregation, for the love that it has for each other. We ask you to help that love to grow. And we ask you, Father, to help us to grow, to be more and more what you would have us to be. Thank you for everything you give to us every day. And we ask you to be with us in our class today and help us as we go through life to honor you and to serve you in all we do. In the name of Christ we pray. Amen. This class is going to be different. I have debated with myself again and again, and I have decided to go ahead and do what I want to do, and it's going to be a little different. And my deepest concern is that it might come across as being somewhat braggadocious, and I don't mean to do that. We are talking about discipleship in the home. And I don't know of any better way of doing that than to describe to you how my family got where my family is. And to kind of share with you the process that has brought us here to where we are, and hopefully that it would be helpful and beneficial to you, because there are so many tie-ins with it, and it comes from so many different sources, and I wanted to share those with you. And we're going to start by taking a look at, is this right? Yes. We're going to take a look at this passage of Scripture that's given to us in Genesis 18, where God is about to go and destroy Sodom and Gomorrah, and he is talking to Abraham through the messengers that he sent, and the men that have come to visit Abraham have been there, and the men set out from there, and they looked down toward Sodom, and Abram went with them to set them on their way. The Lord said, "Shall I hide from Abram what I'm about to do? Seeing that Abram shall surely become a great and mighty nation, and all the nations of the earth shall be blessed in him. For I have chosen him, that he may command his children and his household after him to keep the way of the Lord by doing righteousness and justice, so that the Lord may bring to Abraham what he has promised." And that's the message just before God begins to tell Abraham what he's going to do. And you remember the contest that goes back and forth. Abraham begins by saying, "If there's 50 there, will you destroy the city?" And God says, "If there's 50 there, no, I won't." Well, if there's 45, then no, if there's 45, I won't. Well, what if there's 40? No, I won't. Well, what if there's 30? No, I won't. Well, what if there's 20? No, I won't. Let me speak just one more time. What if there's 10? And you wonder about the 10. You have no idea why. But Lot and his wife are in the city of Sodom and Gomorrah, and they have 2 daughters. And that brings them to a total of 4. And we find out as we go that the daughters have potential husbands. And we don't know how much Abraham knows or not, why he settled on the number 10. And it could not be other than just maybe some individuals that have fallen in love with Lot and his family and have been influenced by Lot and his family. But this is what he asked, and this is what God says. And how many are saved? 3. Lot's wife turns around, becomes a pillar of salt. And Lot and his 2 daughters are the ones that are saved. And Lot is later on in the New Testament described as a righteous man who was troubled daily by what was going on in Sodom and Gomorrah, even though he did live there. But he was troubled daily by what was going on.
Can I ask a question on this? Because it just popped up. Do you mind if I ask
No.
off the wall question? This is one of those scriptures that always makes me ask a question, and you all are a lot smarter than I am. If God knows all, why did 17 and 18? If he knows all, why ask the question in verse 17 and 18?
Why ask the question in 17:8?
The Lord said, shall I hide from Abram what I'm about to do?
Yeah,
He knows all.
yeah,
He knows what's going to happen.
yeah,
So that statement has always confused me.
yeah.
And I know it's an off the wall and it may not be the proper.
All right, whenever something like that happens, what do you think's going on?
What do I think's going on?
Yeah.
I asked
I
the
mean,
question.
the Lord knows what's going on.
Of course.
Yeah. So, is he trying to figure out something for himself? Or is he trying to plant a seed of thought in Abram's mind?
Good. Okay. That makes sense.
And we do that sometimes, with children, with others, when I don't really want to tell you this. I want you to figure it out. And I want you to see it. And so he's not asking Abraham, okay, I don't know what to do here, Abram, so what do you think? But I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do. And it's kind of in that kind of way. All right. We're going to start. I meant to kind of divide these up, but we're going to go down through the line, and I'll explain them as we go. For me, it starts with my grandmother, Lucy Jones. My second oldest granddaughter is named after her, and before she was named, Amy, her mother, came to me and said, what was your grandmother's name? And I told her, Lucy. And she said, was she a strong woman? And I said, oh yes, she was a strong woman. But not in the way sometimes that you would look at it and think, but she was. My grandmother was the one that held the family together in regard to the church. And when her children started moving away, they gradually moved away from the church as well. But she was the one that was the strength of it. My mother remembers the drunkenness that her father went through and had a real alcohol problem. I never saw my grandfather ever even come close to drinking anything. There had been impact and influence that brought about a change that my mother got to see and got to experience. And I don't think it was by demanding or threatening. I think it was just by way of example and influence from this woman. And when I came along and was old enough to know anything, it was Grandma and Grandpa that took us to church, where they worshiped at the Midway Church of Christ, just outside of Moulton. And And my uncle was one of the song leaders, primary song leader for that congregation. And it's where mother and them grew up. And when I go back to that because of the influence I saw in her. And I've told this story before, and I'm going to tell it again. I enjoy telling it, and it's a true event that happened. My Grandma Jones asked me one time when I was staying at her house, she said, I want you to come out, we're going to have chicken for dinner. Actually, it may have been chicken for the breakfast the next morning, because that's usually when you had the chicken. But we were going to have chicken, and she said, I want you to come out so you can help me and us get ready to have the chicken. Well, I was excited about that, because I had done that with my Grandma Spivey. And at Grandma Spivey's house, you go outside, and there's a little coop, and the chicken is in that coop, been in there for a few days, and been feeding it, getting it ready, and making sure everything is prepared, and well-fed chicken. And then you get Grandpa's single-shot rifle, and you are given the rifle, and you take the rifle, and you poke it through the spokes of the little coop, and you put that gun barrel right up next to the chicken's head, and you pull the trigger, and that's it. That's the end of it. I thought that's what was going to happen. I could be brave hunter one more time.
My grandmother did different.
Hush. All right. Thou speakest out of turn. So we went, and Grandma reached her hand in. She grabbed the chicken by the legs, and we started walking to the back. If you've never done it before, I've done it thousands of times. But when you turn a chicken upside down, it's paralyzed. It can't move. And you can carry as many of them as you want. When we had to load chickens that we were removing from a chicken house, and there was about 5,000 of them, you were to bring them out 6 at a time so that you could keep up with the number that you're putting in each crate. And so you pick up 3 in one hand, 3 in the other hand, and take them out upside down. They never move until you put them back in the crate and you let go of them. And, but they're paralyzed when they're upside down. Grandma had it upside down. We go out to the backyard, and she's talking to me, and next thing I know, she grabs that chicken by the head, and then she starts swinging, and she pops it. And when she pops it, that chicken goes flying across the yard, and blood is pouring out of where its head used to be. And I look, and the head is gone, and Grandma has the head in her hand, and she hands me the head and says, go hang this on the clothesline. And so I took it and hung it in the clothesline, and we're sitting there, and I'm watching this chicken run all over the yard, flying around and flopping around, and Grandma's just standing there, just watching the chicken, talking to me, like nothing's happened, nothing's going on whatsoever. And all of this takes place, and I'm sitting there, and I'm looking at this kindly grandmother of mine and what she's done. And I tell you what you learn. From that point on, if she ever said to me, boy, you do that again, I'm going to wring your neck. I knew exactly what she meant, and I knew exactly what she was talking about. And I believed it, and I knew she could do it because she had just demonstrated it. So when I told that the first time here, I told everybody, so if you're having trouble with your kids, just get chickens. Just get some chickens and just demonstrate. You don't have to say anything, just demonstrate. But that's where it kind of began with my family. My dad's family were not quite that way, but Dad was. Then we come to my mom. If Mom was here, she would shoot me for putting this name up. But that's her name. Her name was Baby Ann Spivey because they thought she will be the last one. She was, I believe, the 8th one. They thought she would be the last one. But she had another aunt. I had another aunt. She had another sister that was born after her. But we delighted in learning from the birth certificate that her name was Baby Ann Spivey. And that's what we all called her whenever we wanted to rile her up or get mad. And it didn't last very long, but that's what we did. My mom married my dad. I'll get to that in just a second. My mom married my dad, and Dad had come out of World War II. He got overseas just as the war ended, and came back and was stationed in Daytona Beach. So he really had a hard time during World War II. But he was there in it and came back and married Mom. Dad was not a Christian, and Mom wasn't faithful to begin with, but had a conversation with the preacher one time at Memorial Drive Church in Decatur, where we were at the time, and she made up her mind that she was going to be faithful from that point on. And one of the things that caused that was the three of us, my younger brother Keith was not yet born, but Larry and Gary and I were going out in the backyard, going out to play, and one of us mentioned, let's go in the backyard so nobody will know that we're not at church on this Sunday morning. And Mother heard that. And that impacted her and caused the change, and Mother went back to the church, became faithful to it, and that began to have an impact on Dad. I put this up to tell you the story a little bit about my dad, and this is where it's going to start to get even stronger for what happened with us. Mom and Dad had an argument for a long time about the proper spelling of Dad's name. Dad spelt it E-A-R-N-I-E. Mom said, Ernie, that is wrong. It is E-R-N-I-E. That is the way your name is to be spelled. And so Daddy got to where he was browbeaten enough that he would go back and forth, depending on where he was and what he was signing, until finally he gave up on E-A-R-N-I-E and put down Ernie. So my whole life, I grew up, when I went and got my Social Security card, that my name was E-R-N-I-E. And that's what I wrote down on my Social Security card. And that's what my Social Security card says. And then I looked at my birth certificate. And my dad had filled out the birth certificate. And my name was E-A-R-N-I-E, Dwayne Spivey. And so when I found that on the birth certificate, I changed the way I spelt it for everybody but Social Security. So now Internal Revenue Service and Social Security have me listed as under two names. And that was with Dad. But I remember the day Dad was baptized. I remember the day that occurred. But more important than remembering the day that it occurred, I remember what happened with him. There was an immediate and quick and constant change. My dad had a ring, and I didn't pay much attention to it until one day I noticed it was in a drawer and it wasn't being used anymore. It wasn't being worn. And the ring was the ring of, what do you call the group? Masonic Lodge. It was the Masonic Lodge ring. And I knew he'd been a member of the Masonic Lodge, and he had the ring and it wasn't on. And I said, Dad, you don't wear the ring anymore? And he said, no. I said, I'm not a part of Masonic Lodge anymore. And I said, why not? And he said, because I became a Christian. And there are things that are held in the Masonic Lodge and things that are expected of you in the Masonic Lodge that do not agree with Christianity. And therefore, I'm not in the Masonic Lodge anymore. And that, and Dad immediately went to work. He went to work. First job I remember him doing was he volunteered to do all the Lord's Supper trays for the congregation. And we would go up every Saturday and we would fill those trays up, and then on Sunday, after everyone was finished, we would wash them. And that was before plastic cups. That was when you had the glass cups. And we would wash them. We would wash all of them and get them ready for the next Sunday, and we would do that. And Dad took us with him in order to help for us to help him to do that. Not only did that occur, but Dad then also started showing film strips to anybody that would pay any attention to them. And he would go to different places. He tried to convert his mom and dad, and tried to convert some other family members. But we went everywhere. And it was kind of funny because my dad eventually died from not being able to focus constantly and continually. And I haven't forgotten the name we call that. Y'all help me a second. Dementia. I'm having the same thing, but dementia, and I know the reason. I think the reason was my dad, to support our family, worked from midnight until 8 o'clock in the morning at Wolverine Copper Tubing. He would come home from working at the copper tubing plant at about 8:30 in the morning. He would eat his breakfast while I loaded our panel truck, and then we would immediately go out and do carpenter work until about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And then he would come home and go lay down he would go lay down and try to take a nap. And if we were having a baseball game, or if there was a football game, if we were playing some kind of sports, he wanted to be up and he would go to the game. He would come back from the game, he would eat a quick supper with us, then he would go lay down until he had to get up and go to work at 10:30. He was, for that reason, when we showed film strips, he always wanted me to turn the projector, and he sat kind of behind me, and he almost constantly went to sleep because he was sitting down in a dark place, and he was so sleep deprived, and he was that way just about all of my life with him. And it's no wonder that he had some of the problems that he did. But I saw a change in my dad. And it wasn't something that I was told, it was something I saw. And that had an impact on all of us, all 4 of us boys. It had an impact on how serious he was about this. It had an impact on how devoted he was to this. It had an impact on what he was willing to do and what he was willing to give up in order to be what he ought to be in serving Christ. And that, to me, is the strongest form of discipleship that you can possibly have. And that's what Dad was doing, and he eventually became one of the elders at Beltline and served as an elder right up until the time the dementia started to set in. But that's what he did. The next group are Kathy's parents, Vernon and Elsie Butler. Vernon came back from World War II, and he had the tough part in World War II. He was stationed aboard the USS Alabama, and it was a delight to take our boys on the tour of the USS Alabama with him being our guide. And we have pictures of the boys standing beside, if you've ever been on the USS Alabama, you know at the bow of the ship, they have 3 rows of machine guns set up. And as you're looking toward the bow, the next to the last one on the left was his battle station. And so our boys were able to take a picture with him at that battle station. And the one room in the battleship at that time that was put back in order in the way that it was during the war was the room that he was responsible for. And his duty on ship was to press the clothes of the men after they were washed. And he had a pressing board in his room, but he had a tremendous blessing with it. He only had one bed in the room, and so he was in there by himself, and he did all of that. But Vernon and Elsie Butler, Kathy's parents, were a tremendous influence on us, on Kathy and Teddy, on me and Roger, my brother-in-law, and on our kids. And just as my parents were, their parents were. And when you look back at the influence that we had coming up, our boys had a lot going for them with regard to what was being done and everything about them. Our boys, Tim, Randy, Paul, and David, from oldest to the youngest. And just a little funny story. I'm going to do this quicker. Just a little funny story. Tim dated some in high school. Not a whole lot, but he dated some. Randy dated a lot in high school. Paul saw all of that, and he dated nobody. He didn't date anybody until he went to college and he met Amy. And he married the only girl he ever dated. David came along, and I noticed he was doing the same thing Paul had done. He wasn't dating anybody, and I said, it's okay if you want to date. And is there a problem or something? He said, no. I saw what Paul did and how well it turned out, and I'm going to do exactly what Paul did. And he did. He didn't date anybody until he met Beth. And that's his wife. And their 4 children. That's his wife, and they have 4 children. But all of that happened with them. Let me tell you a little bit about them and where they are now. Tim, all of our boys have different interests. They all love sports. They are all now Green Bay Packer fans, and they are all now Alabama fans. At the beginning, Tim was an Alabama fan, Randy and Paul were Auburn fans, and David was sick of all of it, and so he became a Michigan State fan. But every single one of them said, moving to Tennessee and going to school at David Lipscomb, being around Tennessee fans, turned them all into Alabama fans. Now, I don't mean to, but that's what they said, and so, but that's where they are now. And so the only Auburn fan we have is Jane, and the Auburn fan we had was Kathy. So Kathy was an Auburn fan, and Jane is. But there's some hope for my family on one side. All right, let me tell you about this. Tim and Jackie. Tim converted Jackie. They met at Loyola University, where Tim was. He was told by the school here, or in Alabama, that we can't do any more for you in your music, and best place we could recommend for you is to go to Loyola. And he went to Loyola, and there he met Jackie, and in a Catholic school, and her background was Catholicism, and they started dating. They fell in love with each other. Tim converted her, and they worked to try to convert her family, and different kinds of things. But that was Tim's story. The others, Randy and Paul, were just 2 years apart, and they go to school. When they go to school, just about the entire youth group from Central Church of Christ in Gadsden, Alabama, followed the two of them to Lipscomb to all be a part together, because that youth group was so close to each other when they were growing up. And David was also a part of that youth group. He was a younger part of it, but a lot of the kids in that youth group followed them to Lipscomb. And when you look at it now, Randy and Paul are still at the congregation where Paul went to begin with. And that entire youth group is there in that congregation with them. They have all stayed together. They're raising their families there. They are all staying together and being very close to each other. Since that time, Tim and Jackie have moved, and they're in Nashville, and they're also a part of that congregation. Tim is one of their song leaders, and Tim is one of the ones who interprets sign language to the deaf in the congregation. Randy is one of their primary teachers, and also preaches on occasion whenever he's asked. He's a lawyer, but studied a great deal in the Bible, getting a degree in Bible as well. Paul is one of the elders at that congregation, and David and his wife Beth attend another congregation in town with their family, but they always have. They haven't gone to the same one. But when I look at my boys and I see the impact and the influence they are having on other people and the impact they are having in the congregation where they attend, it just makes me filled with pride. And I look back on this and say, how did we get here? Well, there are a lot of things I wish I could do over. There are a lot of things I would do different. But when I look back at the influence that our boys have had and the strength of the influence they have had from all of these people and still have to a certain degree, even though their grandparents are dead, they still remember them. They know them. They can tell you stories and all different kinds of things. All these things are there. And to me, that's discipleship. That's what discipleship in the home is like. Now, this next one is the one that I hesitate to show you, but I want to show you not because of what it says so much, but because of what my son sees. But he doesn't just see it in me. He sees it in all of this influence that's come before. But Paul wrote me a note after Sunday's service, after he got home. He wrote me a note, and I got it on Monday. And I wanted to share the note with you. And again, I don't want it to be personal. I want you to look at the way this son of mine thinks and the way this son of mine observes and what he sees. And there would be so many that it would be true of, but I wanted to share it with you. Hey, Pops, that was a great day yesterday. I appreciate a lot about you, but in the context of your retirement, I wanted to mention these. I love that your default posture is curiosity and not judgment. I'm sure that has served you well in conflict. It definitely has made you approachable as a dad. I want you to just stop there for a minute and just think about that. What he sees is your default posture is curiosity, not judgment. We've had a lot of talks with our boys, and I always try to figure out, okay, where are you coming from? Why is this important? What are you saying and what am I not understanding? Instead of judgment, instead of condemning, no, you will not do that. Well, sometimes you have to do that, but that's not the majority of it. Then he says this, you're a great teacher. I should have realized that from sitting in the pews for 18 years, but I really noticed when Lucy started driving. I thought I would just automatically know how to teach her. I didn't. She learned more in her one impromptu driving lesson in the Riverchase parking lot than all of her sessions with me. Since then, I've noticed that gift more. I think you modeled Jesus' idea of leadership from Matthew 20. You have been in positions all your life where your words carry weight, but I don't ever remember you using that to elevate your own agenda at work or in our home. Can't think of many lessons more important than that. Hope your first retired Monday is a good one. Love you, Paul. You understand what he's meaning by that? Matthew 20. There's a paragraph where Jesus talks about leadership. And he talks about the leaders that rule over others and command others. And Jesus says, what are we to be? You're to be servants. We're to serve others. And so he took that in Matthew 20 and said, it was easy to approach you and to talk to you because I knew your initial posture would not be condemnation. It would be, let's talk about this. and let's think about it, and I'll think about it. And we do that. We do that a lot. I hope you understand that I'm hesitant about showing that. I asked Paul, do you mind if I share it? He said, no, I don't mind at all. You can share it. And so I thought it would tie in with our lesson for tonight on discipleship in the home. And so we have to look. In discipleship at the home, what am I teaching? What am I demonstrating? What am I showing? How am I treating? How am I listening? What am I doing? And that's what we have to be looking at in order to see exactly what we ought to be doing in connection with how God would have us to live and how God would have us to be with others.
Dwayne, I'd like to add another comment. I'm Mr. Talkative tonight. I have had the opportunity to know your brothers, Larry, Gary, and Keith. It was really interesting this weekend when I walked up. When I walked up, Gary was feeding himself, and I walked up, and I thought I was about to handshake Larry, and it was Gary. And I used to know Gary much better than Larry, but I lived up North Alabama. It was such a weird situation. I feel like I know Larry better than Gary now. But anyway, all your brothers have said, and I'm glad you shared this. It's very touching, and we should all hope that our children will speak about us the way yours do about you.
Well, that was absolutely overwhelming to me.
I bet.
And
Well, your brothers do too.
I would hope and pray that every parent gets a letter similar to that one at some point.
It says a lot about you, but your brothers would always say, they don't know where you came from. They all came from the same place. Every one of them.
Well, I always try to tell them. I take after my mother's Indian blood. You guys take after Daddy's white skin and can't tan and get blistered wherever you go. But I take after Mom's Indian blood side. My great-grandmother was full-blooded Indian, and our great-grandmother. And we found out that the colleges offer a discount if you can prove lineage. And we could not prove lineage because at the time they were alive and on the farm, it was during the Trail of Tears. And they hid the fact that she had any Indian blood. There's no record of it at all. And we've tried to go back in family history and try to find it, and it stops. And it goes back no further.
Dwayne, is this being recorded tonight?
I think so.
I think it would be good for you. That's wonderful for us to hear what you're saying, because as grandparents, we still have some influence out there. But, these younger parents, they should all hear this. The younger, there are two classes that are for the people who actually have children at home now. And that would be great for them to hear too.
Yeah.
I agree.
I tossed the idea around of doing this Sunday morning. But
You can still do that. We'd be glad to hear it again.
even the chicken story?
My grandkids would love to hear that.
They would all enjoy it.
Well, I may do that if y'all think it's.
Yes.
I may do that. That makes Sunday morning easy now.
I think
One down, one to go.
I mean, what are they gonna do if you repeat a lesson, fire you?
And y'all would be the only ones that it's repeated for. You would be the only one it's repeated for.
And at our age, we might not remember.
Yes.
I've been following this very closely, and I just have a question. Why did she hang the head on the clothesline?
She gave it to me to hang on not on the clothesline, on the clothes pole. On the pole, you had a clothesline with poles on it, and she just said put the head on the pole so that she could get it later and throw it away. Probably throw it to the hogs, which was just right across the fence.
It's just, it's for yours.
Hey, you should have lived around our farm. You should have been there.
Make us scared.
That was something.
You know, I used to see across the street from me where I lived in a little town of Watertown, Ohio. Across the street from me, there's a family of 12 people. I can remember that the mother on Sunday mornings being out on their driveway, if you could call it a driveway, wringing the neck of the cat, of the chicken.
Of the cat, she let the cat. Yeah.
Get ready for Sunday lunch.
Yeah.
You see almost every Sunday morning.
Yeah. You know, there's an art to that. You may not do it well the first time you do it, but it's a pop. I mean, it's a breaking, and then it's got to be a quick pop. And y'all don't want to know that, though, do you?
We have several generations that do not have survived.
My wife is one of them. We only eat chicken breast at our house.
Wayne,
Yes.
two of my great-grandmothers were full-blooded Cherokee. My wife says they must have come from the Paleface tribe. But one of my mother's brother kept up with the family tree, and I asked him one day, why did my great-great-grandmother have an English name? It wasn't a Cherokee name. He said her father, to keep going on the Trail of Tears, changed their family name to an English name and swore on an affidavit that they were English. Which, I have a picture of my great-great-grandmother. It was in 1835. And my mother's oldest sister, she was born in 1911. And her great-grandmother died in the 20s, so she remembered her well. I just thought it was kind of interesting what they went through. So if it weren't for that lie, I probably wouldn't be here.
Yeah, yeah. I've seen a picture of my great-grandmother, and there's just about no doubt she was Indian, but that was tough. What they've gone through, what they went through, and everything else. It's so tough. All right, I'm going to let y'all go early. If y'all promise.
We'll look forward to Sunday morning.
If y'all promise not to disturb other classes.
We're going to break in every one of them.
Thank y'all.